All right, today we're going to unlock one of nature's wildest secrets. How one tiny, and I mean tiny, creature figured out a way to actually cheat death.
So let's just start with a question that, people have been asking for, well, forever. Can anything truly live forever?
Well, get this. The answer might actually be yes. And we're not talking about some mythical beast here. We're talking about a jellyfish. So let's meet the one creature that can, at least in theory, live forever.
So how in the world does it pull this off? Let's dive right in and get to know this incredible creature that basically has a superpower.
Okay, so the star of our show today is called Turritopsis dohrnii, and it's hiding this absolutely remarkable secret in its DNA, a secret that seems to just break one of the biggest rules of biology. And here's the crazy part. This master of immortality, it's tiny. I mean, we are talking smaller than your pinky fingernail. Just think about that contrast for a second. This minuscule organism holds a power over life and death that seems, well, almost infinite.
You know what's really wild, though? How long this secret stayed hidden. Scientists first described this jellyfish way back in the 1880s, but nobody figured out its immortal trick until 1996. It was literally hiding in plain sight for more than 100 years.
All right, so that brings us to the real heart of the mystery, right? How exactly does it rewind its own biological clock? Let's get into the science of it.
To really get why this one jellyfish is so special, we gotta first look at how a normal jellyfish lives. And honestly, most of them have a pretty standard life. A one-way ticket, just like pretty much every other animal out there.
So for your typical jellyfish, life is a straight line. It starts out as this little swimming larva, right? A planula. Then that little guy settles down somewhere and grows into what's called a polyp. And then from that polyp, the adult jellyfish, the one we all recognize, the medusa, buds off. And after that, well, that's it. The journey's over.
Okay, so if that's the end of the road for most jellyfish, how does this one, Turritopsis dohrnii, manage to just break the rules and escape that fate?
The answer, and this is the magic word, is a process called transdifferentiation. This is the absolute key to everything. It's when a mature, specialized cell, say a muscle cell in its little bell, can completely transform and become a different type of cell. It's like hitting the ultimate biological reset button.
Okay, so here's where things get wild. The immortal jellyfish, it goes through the normal stages. Larva to polyp, polyp to the adult medusa. But then, and this is the game changer, when it gets stressed out or injured or just old, it can go backwards. The adult medusa literally reverts back into a polyp, and the whole cycle can just start all over again. It's a perfect looping life cycle.
Okay, now before we all get too carried away with this whole living forever thing, it is definitely time for a reality check. We need to talk about a really important distinction. This jellyfish is immortal, sure, but it is not invincible.
Yeah, this quote from the research really brings us back down to earth. The immortality we're talking about here is biological. And now in the real world, it's pretty much theoretical. This thing isn't a superhero, it's a marvel of biology, but one with very, very real limits.
So what's the difference exactly? Well, biological immortality just means it doesn't die of old age. It's immune to that process we call senescence. But that is a world away from being invincible, right? Which would mean it's immune to, well, everything. And trust me, it is definitely not immune to everything. Out there in the big, scary ocean, it's still got to deal with a ton of real-world dangers. It can get eaten by a shark or a bigger fish. It can get sick. It can get wiped out by a sudden change in the water temperature. So the big takeaway here is, very few of them, if any, actually get to live forever.
All right, so if it can still end up as fish food, why is this such a big deal? Why do we even care? Well, that brings us to our final section. What can we learn from unlocking nature's secrets? I mean, it's no surprise that its ability to just hit a biological reset button has scientists completely fascinated. This tiny creature is forcing them to ask huge questions and rethink everything they thought they knew about aging and the limits of life itself.
And the potential for medicine, it's just mind-blowing. Researchers are digging into its genetics, hoping to find secrets that could one day lead to incredible regenerative therapies, maybe help us repair damaged tissues in our own bodies, or even find new ways to treat degenerative diseases and slow down the aging process. That's why this little jellyfish is so important. And really, beyond just the medical side of things, its very existence throws a wrench in our basic assumptions about life. This idea that life is a straight line. You're born, you grow up, you die. We just take that for granted. This jellyfish comes along and proves that, nope, nature can play by a completely different set of rules.
So when you boil it all down, that's what this little guy, Turritopsis dohrnii, really is. It's this tiny, almost invisible marvel, a living, floating reminder that the natural world is just packed with secrets and answers to questions we haven't even thought to ask yet.
And that leaves us with one last, pretty deep question to chew on. This creature shows us a biological path to cheating death. So if we could one day unlock those secrets and use them for ourselves, should we? Something to think about. Thanks for joining me.